UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away. This is the coming great deception. However, when we go up, they come down. When we go up, they show up. I'm your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli, coming to you from an undisclosed location somewhere deep in the heart of the Santa Monica Mountains. A very special guest tonight, Chris Brock, joins us. We'll be talking about a variety of subjects, but specifically, I'm trying to focus in on Area 51. Now, I've never been there, but I've been to Rachel, Nevada, the Little Alien, the Mailbox, all those places which are now gobbled up by the base. So you can't really get there anymore. We'll get into that, but first, a word from our trusted sponsor. Folks, here's the hard truth. Every 6 years, your dollar loses half its buying power. So let's say you got $100,000 in savings today. It could feel like you only have $50,000 by 2031. But there is a way to protect and preserve your money. Folks, it's gold. Noble Gold Investments makes it easy to own gold or silver, no pressure, no call centers, just honest one-on-one support. Open a qualified account and get a free 10-ounce silver American flag bar. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com, noblegoldinvestments.com. Remember, folks, there's always a risk with any investment, but I have to tell you, Peggy and I invested in Noble Gold years ago, and man, am I glad we did. It could go over $4,000. It could go lower. We don't know what it's going to do. I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't want one. But noblegoldinvestments.com, noblegoldinvestments.com. Chris, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. And you've been in contact with this gentleman, apparently with security out in Area 51. And Bob Lazar talked about this and broke the whole Area 51 story way back in the 90s. And I remember getting his DVD and watching it, and frankly believing pretty much everything he said. I thought he was a real stand-up guy. Pick up the story. What have you got?
Well, this gentleman has been on my program 5 times. I've done some extensive work to make sure that I'm dealing with someone credible. And like yourself, I enjoy Bob Lazar's content, but there was a critical error that I found with his work is that he kept alluding to these beings that come from faraway galaxies. And that's just not the case, LA. And I believe you understand that as well. Though that was just one of the missing puzzle pieces. And I believe it's going to be very important for folks to understand this because it is going to be a part of the Great Deception.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, what we have is, the mainstream media and just about everyone that has been planting the seeds from the government narrative of, open talks in Congress to, folks like Stephen Greer, the gentleman you just named, that are going into extensive detail regarding these entities. But what a lot of people are missing the boat on is that they're not from far away. These are fallen angel offspring, Nephilim, that go back to the biblical time period around the flood. And when God wiped our planet clean in an attempt to remove this corruption of society, these spirits had nowhere to go. Though there were some that survived, and there was fallen angel tech that was in play, advanced fallen angel tech, and they were able to make hybrid biological meat suits that look like 120 different races, grays, you name it. But these are avatars that these spirits that are trapped on this planet are. But this has been a deception in play for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And what's going to happen is my belief is when they show up, most of the world are going to believe that they are from faraway galaxies, just as the Vatican has planted the seeds that they will baptize them. And they're going to claim to be our creators. And I believe it will cause one of the greatest apostasies, the great apostasy that's listed in Scripture.
And you're in my wheelhouse. I mean, I've been banging that drum for like almost 30 years. I mean, professionally. And I agree. This is when you think about it, and we did a whole show on this with the Super Bowl ad from 2024. Hello down there. It's a 1.5-minute commercial. Basically, it's showing that UFOs are appearing all over the planet. And they're not just one craft or a mile-wide craft. When you get this happening, the entire planet does a shift. It's just like, boing, 90 degrees. Everything changes instantaneously. The entire media will focus on it. That's all you'll see on the net. And, anybody, if we're still here and we're going, wait a minute, we'll be looked at as Neanderthals, But I want to read you something. This is a track. I think you'll find this really interesting. This is a track that we produce. It's called What is the Truth? Okay. And we're quoting from an author by the name of Barbara Mosiniak, who is a New Ager, and she is channeling this entity, okay, supposedly from the Pleiades. And this is channeled information. So first of all, how do you know who it is you're dealing with? You don't, right? But this is what she says. We are here. We are the Pleiadians. Humanity is learning a great lesson at this time. A lesson is, of course, to realize your godhood. If human beings do not change, if they do not make the shift in values and realize that without Earth, they could not be here, then Earth and its love for its own initiation is reaching for a higher frequency, will bring about a cleansing that will balance it once again. Here's the kicker. Remember, this is old material. There is a potential for many people to leave the planet in an afternoon. I'll read that line again. There is a potential for many people to leave the planet in an afternoon. The people who leave the planet during a time of Earth changes do not fit here any longer, and they are stopping the harmony of the Earth. I mean, they've just explained away what many Christians believe and hope in, the rapture of the church. Your thoughts when you hear that?
Well, if you look back throughout history, specifically the 30s, early 20s, the Nazi regime were deep into the occult for real society.
Right.
And that what you just read to me almost mirrors their story on how they received their technology is through channeling from these entities that were supposedly light years away. And it's my belief that, when World War II finished and wrapped up, the Nazi empire didn't collapse. It just went under a different name. And those scientists went to a different country.
I agree.
And they worked their way up through leadership. And many people watching this program are residing in that country as we speak. The deception's thick. And we're going to see a lot of that. I think there's going to be a lot of information that they're going to plant the seeds on, as everything that's released is controlled. It fits a narrative for a specific purpose. And what I understand about what's happening at S4 and Area 51 just confirms a lot of the things that you've probably heard, that really, really just kind of solidifies everything that we've been thinking.
You mentioned the Nazis and Vril. I forget the woman's name. She had really long hair, almost down to her ankles or something. And she goes missing. She was one of the principalities, or not principalities, but one of the principal players in the whole Vril society. She goes missing at the end of World War II. Mm-hmm. The U-boats and, Antarctica, New Schwabenland, the whole thing, Argentina. I mean, what are we really looking at here? We don't know. But I find it interesting that she goes missing at the end of World War II. And, there's also the speculation she was taken off planet in one of the ships. I mean, you just don't know. Walter von Braun, this again is a sort of a apocryphal, anecdotal. There's no way to vet it. Where did you get all the help from? How did you figure out? Oh, we had help from them. The whole Roswell crash over in Germany, the Black Forest thing. I mean, it's all part of UFO lore. There's no way to really vet a lot of this stuff, but you start following the crumbs, as it were. And in my opinion, there hasn't been one, this is the question. There hasn't been one president that I'm aware of. Now, maybe somebody, flew in there secretly, that's ever been to Area 51, specifically S4. I mean, nobody. Eisenhower goes missing with the dental thing, but that's Holloman Air Force Base. That's not S4. And that's where all the stuff is, at least was. Your thoughts?
So they say and report that, you know, that's what they say and that's what they report. What I find interesting, if we could back up 1 second about the Nazis, is there's two empires that have something in common. You have the ancient Egyptian Empire and you have Nazi Germany, spread apart by thousands of years, that have two things in common. Both had advanced technology and both hated the Jews.
Yeah.
Imagine that correlation.
Yeah.
Regarding the presidents never visiting there, I'm not sure what to make of that. I'm not. Though from the things that I've been learning and what I've been studying and cross-referencing, there is a lot going on, and there it's connected globally. Just in the United States alone, there's over 105,000 miles of tunnels. They're under the ground, literally below our feet. And that's just the United States. Over 1.5 million miles globally. They all connect to DC, Denver Airport, Antarctica, and various other places under CERN, New York, Canada, pyramids up north. It's, there is an entire ecosystem, from my understanding, that is there. And we're not talking about, 100 feet underground. When I was interviewing this gentleman, it is a 7-mile descent to level 7. 7 miles. That is. And the darkness is so thick, it's palpable. And it's my belief, because of how dark it was, and he said that he could feel it, that he was on the edge of the outer darkness. Because he said the spiritual darkness was so thick, he could literally feel it like it was almost fluid like water. And it smelled so horrible, like hot garbage and sulfur combined. And one of the things that I found really interesting is upon his hire there, he had to sign an affidavit stating that he could not mention the name of Jesus Christ, otherwise face severe penalties.
I have heard this before from other people that have come out of that area. And, this is the stuff of UFO lore that we hear. Is there a way to vet it? Well, I mean, you've got a witness. I've got a couple of witnesses that are anonymous that, told me, but I've heard that story before. They had to sign something that they were not allowed to ever mention the name Jesus Christ. And, why is that? It's, I'll tell you why. Because that's the demons and the fallen angels tremble at that name. It's interesting how the Bible says, and under the earth. And some people look at that as like, well, that's just how, it's just, the Holy Spirit's just using that because he needs to add a few more sentences to the Bible or whatever. No, excuse me. And under the earth means the Spirit's under the earth. And it makes you wonder, how the possibility of Nephilim before or during the flood, if they survive by going deep underground. Some people believe that. I'm not so sure I do. But what's interesting is, you mentioned the Egyptians now, and I interviewed the two scientists, by the way, two of the scientists of that team. And what the news media didn't report, there were 2 satellites going over the Giza plateau, but made by 2 different companies. Okay, so this is like you got satellite 1 and satellite 2, different techniques, different material, different instrumentation in the satellite. So we're not the same. Flying over Giza numerous times, not just one pass, numerous times. The data holds, according to them. They stand by it. I mean, why would they come out with this just to get ridiculed and laughed at? So they're going to hold a press conference in July, but I interviewed them, and they were adamant that in their, from their perspective, there's this whole underground system that's who knows how vast and who knows how large it is. One interesting thing, and I sent it to them, the day after I interviewed them, they showed the Iranian centrifuges. Now, in the Giza plateau, allegedly, there are these 8 columns that go down with these spirals that go down like this. Well, when you take a centrifuge, a modern day centrifuge, and put it next to what they think is below the Giza pyramid, it's exactly the same. There you got the spiral thing going down. Look, I don't know. More information. We need more data. I understand that, but I find that really interesting. And that blows. If that data holds, it's a new day. You got to rethink everything. Guys like Zawi Hawass, with all due respect, it throws the whole Egyptology thing out the window.
The gentleman you just named, my discernment meter goes full on red alert every time he talks. He deflects. He gets very condescending, gets very defensive when anytime anything is brought up about going under any of those pyramids, you name it. Big time deflection, will not stand up to scrutiny, will not even get up and debate in front of people. And I believe that the tunnels connect there as well.
Yeah.
As one thing this gentleman said is that the deeper that you go, the darker it gets. And it's not from a lack of light, it's from a spiritual density. And it literally feels like your soul is being suffocated. And he said the reason that they operated down there is because the demonic do not hide in shadows. They exist within distortion. They had to wear night vision goggles and respirators as the air was not conducive for humans. And I find this really interesting. And one thing he said about the Greys that I'd never considered is that they are hive-minded biological drones. These are the ones used for abduction, data harvesting, hybrid program monitoring, and they're soulless constructs versus the reptilians, who are the elite enforcers, often described as the abductee testimonies, very sadistic, powerful, spiritually charged with rage and hatred. And then the Nordics, which are like the counterfeit angels of light, used in deceptive spiritual experiences, and they mimic holiness to give the illusion of a benevolent being. And then there's things that I had not heard of before, like insectoids and chimera species, which they're mixing like mantid DNA with Nephilim constructs using neurological experiments and pain extraction from victims. It's and I'm just scratching the surface on the notes. It's very interesting.
For a student of the Bible, like we are, none of this should take us by surprise. Jesus,
right.
2,000 years ago, Jesus goes, "Hey, be like the days of Noah when I return." And that begs the question, well, what differentiates the days of Noah? This is why the Genesis 3:15 narrative is so absolutely paramount in our understanding of the biblical narrative, because we don't get Genesis 3:15, the seed war, then we're clueless. The seed war is going on. They're making chimeras. They did it back in the days of Enoch and the days of Noah. The same thing is going on now. I mean, church is, for the most part, and I love the church, I'm part of the church, but the church, a lot of it won't even address it, pushes it away. Oh, no, it's a Cephalite theory. So you can never understand what you're looking at. This is on steroids. And, so here's the deal, Chris. You've got all this stuff going down in deep, dark, underground bases, and I don't even want to know the atrocities that are going down there.
Yeah.
And you've got AI, so now you can't tell what's real, what's fabricated anymore. I mean, we don't know. We just don't know.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
And knowledge is like increasing at the point where, and then you've got the wars and rumors of wars and pestilence and famines and earthquakes. I mean, he's got to come back, because you can't fix this anymore. I mean, you just can't. You just can't fix it. So I just think, my hope is this, that he's going to do something. He's going to take us out of here soon.
Yeah. All the signs are here. Do you know we have 16 bodies of water that have turned red?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Yeah. I've been tracking it over the last month. In Iran, South America, Argentina, Brazil, India, 16 bodies of water that have turned red. Earthquakes are up almost 1,000% in the last 9 months. Solar flares are up 6,000% in the last 24 months. I can feel and see the love of many growing cold. You can just see the abrasiveness in the hardened heart. You can see good turning bad and bad turning good. It's topsy-turvy. All we have to do is look at the last administration that we had.
Mm-hmm.
It was literally I mean, it makes your jaw drop.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. What they were trying to turn the country into. So that stopped. We have a reprieve. But meanwhile, nothing has changed. I mean, all it takes is look, India and Pakistan, both of them have nukes. And I mean, these people are all it takes is some knucklehead. And I honestly think a nuke going off is a trigger. That's when they show up, in my opinion. That's their that's what they're waiting for. They're waiting for that. That's their go signal. That's conjecture, but that's um you know, I remember this one man coming up to me at a conference. It's actually in one of our UFO films. I believe it's the very first. We have a 10-box set on UFOs, and I think I'm pretty sure it's the first one. So the guy won't come on camera, but so the camera is showing down on his shoes. So all you see is the guy's shoes, but you hear his voice. And he told me he was ex-agency, ex-military, and he's over his friend's house who's ex-military. And they're watching a football game, and all of a sudden his friend starts talking about his son who's in one of these bases. Now, I've heard this 2 or 3 to 4, 5, 6 times over the years from different people. They won't come on the record because they're terrified, but they'll talk about it. And the kid apparently, was watching a football game with his dad or whatever, and he just blurted out, "I'm working with aliens in a deep underground military installation." There it is. There it is.
Let me ask you, in all of your travel and, archaeology, have you ran across a black goo substance at any of these sites?
I've heard about it. X-Files did a whole thing on it, and that was based on some of what Dr. Roger Lear talks about and others. Dr. Roger Lear, he's no longer with us. He passed away a number of years ago, but he was a consultant for the X-Files. And the black goo, I believe there's something to that.
I'll tell you.
Yeah. It's sometimes found in some of the sarcophagi. I have never run into it. I don't want to run into it from what I know about it.
So this black goo, it's stored and experimented in many of these underground labs. It's a sentient liquid that they make graphene oxide out of. It's AI capable of rewriting DNA, hijacking consciousness. They know, and for a fact, I've read the lab reports out of Japan, that they are putting this graphene in medicines,
right?
Putting them in aerosols, putting them in water, processed food. And it is a bridge towards something. I believe it's a bridge prepping the body for a certain chip, a mark in the coming time period. Now, one thing I didn't know until this gentleman told me that is that there is a CERN level particle collider under S4, opening temporary rifts into other dimensions, releasing and collecting the black goo.
See, when you say things like that, I mean, there's no way for any of us to vet it. I get that.
Right.
But the bottom line is, I've been doing this probably too long, but people that are on their deathbed and they know they've got a month or 2 weeks or whatever, they start spilling the beans. They got to tell somebody because they've been living with this secret stuff for so long, and they spill the beans. I mean, how many, we show some of these deathbed confessions. Walter G. Haught's a perfect example. Roswell, that affidavit was, a legal document, was opened up after he passed away. And he was at Roswell. He saw the craft. He saw the bodies. He knows about the cover-up. He states it all. I mean, it's like right there. They got to get it off their chest. So, you hear reports like this, and that's conspiracy theory. How are you possible? Well, you can call it what you want, but the bottom line is something going on out there because, there's nothing on the surface. There's runways and a hangar. That's about it. Whatever's there. And according to Bob Lazar, the doors of the mountains open up and different craft and all this other stuff. And then it goes down. And and here's something, we talked about the Nazis, and this is not the stuff of conspiracy theorists. This is a matter of historical record. Operation Paperclip let all these guys in.
Yeah.
Scientists, intelligence guys. I mean, all these guys came in, and not all, but many, or at least some, were occult adepts. They were already given over to the darkness. And, you can run with that and do with that what you will, folks. Read, just do your own study on it. It's not the stuff of a conspiracy theory. It's real, and it happened. And,
Yeah.
Who knows what we really took in when all these guys came over here. It's just, it's alarming.
I agree. And the gentleman that I have had on for several episodes, you just explained essentially his position. He is older. He is nearing the end of his timeline. He's dealing with many health issues. And this is something that he has held on to his entire life, because this wasn't recent. This was through the 70s. And he's gone into some very specific details about status chambers, ancient resurrected DNA, sound frequency chambers, mimicking the voice of God, head to skull technology weaponized for psychological domination, Project Bluebeam style deception. And he has been very specific that when this quote, staged alien invasion happens, that the majority of them are going to come from the underground, and the most from the skies will be Bluebeam technology. He has said there is over 2 million of them underground awaiting orders.
And see, this is why it ties into the Super Bowl commercial, which is all tongue in cheek, and it's, ha ha ha. And folks, if you haven't seen this, go to YouTube and Google "Hello Down There" 2024 Super Bowl ad. It'll come right up. It's 1 minute and 30 seconds long. You don't even know what the commercial's for until the last 5 seconds. And then it says a website makes it real, Squarespace. And it opens up. Let me just do it real quick. It opens up this woman's on her cell phone, looking at her cell phone like this. And she's reading the headlines. And it says Congress basically stating that UFOs are real, congressional oversight of the whole UFO phenomena. So you're like this, but the camera's pointing up over her head, and a mile-wide craft goes by like this. She doesn't see it. Well, she doesn't like that, so she scrolls. Now she's got a cat clawing the toilet paper. Oh, that's what I want to watch. Then it cuts to Paris. Same thing. There's a UFO over the Eiffel Tower, and all these kids are on their cell phones, right there. Cell phones, laptops, iPads, the whole deal. No one sees it. Then it cuts to Texas, little diner. So a man and a woman are eating. She's on her cell phone. Texas celebrity bacon diet, celebrity bacon diet. Meanwhile, the dog in the pickup truck is looking up and barking. You can see the reflection, UFO overhead. Cuts to Japan, same thing, 10th floor up in a building. They're all around on their computers, blah, blah, blah. There's UFOs flying between the windows like this. So the alien, it cuts to the ship. Now you're inside the ship. The alien with an elongated skull, by the way, goes like this, presses a button. It says "hello" down there. Everybody's iPhone, tablet, pad goes, and you see all these grays waving. Everyone looks up. Mile-wide UFOs. And what they're telling you is, to your point about the millions of craft, it is global. They're mile-wide. They're in every city. They're all over. This is how you bring in the whole New World Order thing, the whole one world government. Well, I mean, everything stops. All the wars, all the nonsense, everything, especially when Jesus and Muhammad and Buddha and Krishna come walking out of a mile-wide craft in downtown Jerusalem, waving in the crowd. I mean, this is where we're going. I know it sounds crazy, but how many times we have to hear it? So
no,
you're programming.
You nailed it with that last word. They have been seeding this narrative since the 50s, slowly dripping it through movies, TV shows, each increasing slowly and slowly. And then, end of last year, they dropped the mother. They saturated the skies with whatever that stuff was. It was probably a combination of Project Bluebeam, some of the actual legit craft, and then black site technology, but there was thousands of them. thousands of them. You would see orbs shapeshift in mid-flight, turn into drones, and then completely disappear because they're probably interdimensional. They are prepping. They are planting the seeds so that when this does happen, there's not mass panic, just adaptation, because they've been prepping and seeding the population for almost half a century.
I agree. And this is why I really truly believe that when you get a nuke that goes off anywhere on the planet, anyway, let's say the Pakistanis and the Indians, somebody presses the button, a nuke goes off, everything stops. The internet, whoa, everything's focused on this. Everyone is terrified. Oh my gosh, is this it? Are we going to blow each other up? The planes are showing aerial surveillance of the damage. 100,000 people were just liquidated in a moment, blah, 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 whatever it is. It creates, everybody's panicking. That's when they show up as our leaders. Hey, we created all life on this planet. We're here to usher you into a golden age. And by the way, take this little chip and you'll, spend 300 or 500 years elongated lifespan. And, look, it's, if this isn't it, if this isn't the scenario. And the other thing, you talked about, where do they hide? Well, they hide in the oceans. I mean, we've got one of the deepest trenches right out here. When I go down my canyon, I can see it. And the ships go by because it's one of the deepest trenches on the planet. That's where they hide. They hide in the oceans because and isn't it interesting how in the book of Revelation, it says there's no more sea. Why does the Lord kind of go, well, we're just going to get rid of these oceans? I mean, to show what was there, I don't know. That's conjecture, but I find that really interesting that, for all you surfers out there, I don't know, maybe he figures another way to do it, but he's going to dry up the oceans. There is no more sea. That's not a worry.
I will say that I asked this gentleman exactly that question. If there's millions of them, where are they? And he reminded me of how large our planet is when you look at it in its density, because we live on the surface.
Right.
There is so much room. 4,000 square miles is just one area near Antarctica where there's an open ecosystem. 4,000 square miles where all the tunnels lead to, and that's just one of them. There are many, many underground, you could call mini cities, but these are thousands of square miles operating off their own air, their own ecosystem, 0-point energy. There is a lot of room on the inside of this earth. Just, if we just think about that, we're on the surface. So we're occupying just a fragment of this planet. The density, even if you only go down 5 or 10 miles, that is 500 times the amount of room that we have on the surface, just in that section. So yes, that explains it. If there's over 1 million miles in tunnels under the ground, 105,000 miles in tunnels just in the United States, and there's 5 to 10x the amount of room just under 5 miles of the surface, easily, very much so. And Genesis was very clear. It said in those days before and after, when it was talking about the fallen angel offspring. In Genesis, it said before and after. After meaning the flood.
Yeah, it's after the flood. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sun saw the daughters of men. And that's it. People tap dance around that. Well, it really doesn't mean what it says. It means exactly what it says. They were here. It's the days of Noah. Chris, I'm going to give you the last word. I like to try to keep these things under 45 minutes, and we're at the 40-minute mark. So wrap it up for us, please. And thanks for coming back on. How can people watch your show? Please tell us that.
Christopher Brock Ministries. I'm on YouTube. Easy to find. Would love to see you guys. I'm live twice a day, 7 days a week. I'm 1 o'clock and 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, twice a day. And we focus on the simplicity of Christ because it is that time. There is not one greater prep in the world than that relationship with the Most High. If you don't have your feet fully cemented with Christ, you don't stand a chance in getting by on what is coming. Your best prep is an intimate relationship with God.
Chris, thanks so much for coming on the record, folks. You can check him out twice a day. That's a lot of work. And he's definitely part of a tip of the spear and alerting the body of Christ and people who don't know the Lord that this is it. It's coming down. It's you need to wake up because we are in a window of time that is absolutely unprecedented. Thanks so much for watching. Before I go, here's Ashley to tell you how to get the book, Rungs of Disclosure.
Hey guys, I'm Ashley. Today I'm excited to introduce you to something extraordinary. L.A. Marzulli's 10 DVD set called UFO Disclosure. This is not just any collection. It's your key to uncovering the hidden truths about the UFO UAP phenomenon. Did you know that UFO whistleblowers have testified on the record that not only have we recovered crafts, but we have also retrieved non-human biologics? Let that sink in. The world is waking up to a reality long dismissed as science fiction. But what does it really mean? L.A. Marzulli and Gil Zimmerman, business partner and co-producer of these documentaries, have spent years uncovering the shocking truth behind the UFO UAP phenomenon. Now, in this exclusive 10 DVD set called UFO Disclosure, LA dives deep into what the mainstream media won't reveal. Close encounters of the first, second, third, and fourth kind, real-life accounts of people who have seen the occupants of these mysterious crafts, abductions, cattle mutilations, crop circles. What is truly happening behind the scenes? 2 films dedicated to the infamous Roswell crash of 1947, exploring the mysteries that have been shrouded in secrecy. And finally, his latest film, What is the Truth? Exploring the new UFO phenomena and the New Age connection. LA has interviewed top insiders Nick Pope, George Norrie, Gary Stearman, Mondo Gonzalez, and more. Experts who reveal why this might be the most significant event in human history. This is the coming Great Deception. Are you ready? Go to lamarzulli.com today and get your copy of LA's 10 DVD set called UFO Disclosure. Or for streaming, go to streaming.lamarzulli.net. Arm yourself with the truth before it's too late.
Thanks for watching, folks. Chris, thanks again for coming on the record. I'm sure we'll do it again. And folks, stay tuned. There's always more content coming up right here. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, do that. Thanks for watching.